Warning. This program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions. With your host, Berzerker, this is Unshackled Fury.
Gameplay first. Commit to quality. Play nice, play fair. Embrace your inner geek. Learn and grow. Think globally. Lead responsibly. Every voice matters. These are the core principles of Blizzard Entertainment. And these are the words of the Department of Fair Employment and Housing in the state of California. Pursuant to the authority vested in DFEH under FEHA, Government Code Section 12900, and related laws, DFEH's enforcement action seeks to remedy, prevent, and deter unlawful harassment, retaliation, and discrimination. Specifically, the violations pled herein include claims for sex discrimination in terms and conditions of employment, including compensation, assignment, promotion, constructive discharge, termination, unlawful sexual harassment, retaliation, failure to prevent discrimination, harassment and retaliation, and unequal pay. Welcome to episode 95 of the Unshackled Fury podcast. My name is Berzerker. I'm the host of this show. And this week, there's only one thing to talk about. A truly terrible and heinous series of events that have culminated in a lawsuit being filed by the state of California against Activision Blizzard. A lot has happened in the past week. I've tried my best to keep track of what's going on. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't feel incredibly awkward doing this particular episode of this show. But I do have this platform, as small as it is. And in whatever way I can, I want to give amplification of the voices to the issues raised in this lawsuit, the voices in our community, because they are critical and they must be heard. I will try my best here not to say the wrong thing. I'm afraid I might, in sort of my meandering that may occur. I have show notes here that I'm going to try my best to follow. So bear with me as I try to go through what's happened, where we are, and where we're going. So to that end, the state of California specifically, as I said before, the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, an agency that's been here in California for about 60 years, filed suit alleging that Blizzard fostered a sexist culture and paid women less than men despite women doing substantially similar work, assigned women to lower-level jobs and promoted them at slower rates than men, and fired or forced women to quit at higher frequencies than men. DFEH also alleges that African American women and other women of color were particularly impacted by Activision Blizzard's discriminatory practices. This suit is the culmination of a 2-year investigation that was conducted by DFEH. And it's not an easy read, at least what's public so far. What came to light last week, the suit was filed in LA County on July the 20th. I believe that was Tuesday. And there's some pretty gnarly shit in here. Some terrible acts that are described. And I would warn anyone that if any of this is problematic to you in any way to see or read or hear, this may not be the best episode for you to listen to. I've retweeted a few things over the past week that I thought were worth seeing or hearing. One of them did include a link to this, and it's a hard read. It's a hard read. Besides Blizzard, Alex Afraziabi, who we've talked about before on this show, was specifically called out, along with 10 other unknowns. And in this, there's not just allegations of pay inequity or just simple instances of people being targeted in one way or another for promotions. There are very serious allegations involving sexual harassment, of people being groped, of inappropriate comments. In one instance, they describe Afraziabi as having and it's a misspelling, but I believe they call it a Cosby suite at BlizzCon. I assume this is at the Hilton, where we all like to stay and hang out and have a good time. Having seen some of those people there myself, I don't know that I find this all that surprising. But there were inappropriate actions happening there. In one instance, and perhaps truly the worst of all the things on here, an employee of Blizzard committed suicide while on a company trip. And in the description of that, there are allegations that a male supervisor of this employee had brought, I can't believe I'm saying this, a butt plug and lubricant on a business trip. That this supervisor may have been in a relationship with this person. This deceased employee suffered from sexual harassment from others. And it's pretty damning. It's pretty damning stuff to read. It's a 29-page brief that's out right now. You can go through it if you like and see more of the details. But it is quite heinous. And I've read through it a couple of times. I don't know that I just personally am quite over the shock of this to a certain degree. At the same time, knowing what we know about the world and about the state of affairs in this world, I suppose it's not all that surprising. But that suit has been filed. That is now in play. Activision Blizzard, 10 unknown individuals, and I guess Alex Afraziabi, so that's another. They are being sued. These people are now going to be sued personally liable for these allegations by the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. So that was the initial event that came to light this past week that has kicked off just an absolute frenzy of activity since. So in taking a look at this lawsuit, as I mentioned before, the Department of Fair Employment and Housing is the agency here in California that is spearheading that lawsuit. As I've mentioned before on this show and on Twitter, I am a state worker, and in fact, I do have some experience with this department. They have a reputation for not fucking around, and I can guarantee you that they are not doing this for fun. They are not doing this just because they can. They are doing this because after 2 years of investigation, I can guarantee you they have an absolute shit ton of evidence to support the claims that are being made in this suit. Because if it's one thing I know about state attorneys, they're not taking things to this level unless they're pretty goddamn sure they're going to prevail. So I'm not saying that all of this is 100% true and accurate, but it's probably pretty damn close to true. At least knowing what I know about at least that side of people involved. The Department of Fair Employment and Housing has recently been granted increased authority, just as of this past year, to go after equity pay claims. So that's something that they are utilizing in this instance. Not just the harassment end of this, the sexual harassment that is wildly illegal. There is also pay inequity issues. There was a bill that was passed in California last year, Senate Bill 973, that took effect, I believe, January 1st of this year. And in it, not only does DFEH have increased authority to pursue these types of claims, companies also now have to provide pay reports. I believe it's companies over 100 people have to provide reports to the Department of Fair Employment and Housing about pay. And so, guarantee this will not be the last time we hear about any of this. But that is the department who is going to be responsible for this suit and for bringing suit. They've been around since 1959. They were brought into existence by Pat Brown, who was the father of Jerry Brown, who was our governor for 4 terms here in California. And let me tell you, Browns don't fuck around. So that department is charged with a variety of equity issues, but in this case, they are going to be going to court on behalf of essentially the women who are employees of Activision Blizzard. I don't know if this qualifies as class action or what the technical terms on that are necessarily, but they are representing literally thousands of people, I believe, in this state or in this case. On the other side, Activision Blizzard, they are the defendants in this case. They are the ones being sued, along with Afraziabi and these other unknown individuals that their names may or may not come to light further down the road as this goes. Again, as there's been an investigation, there is still potentially and likely more to come on that. So those are the sort of the parties involved generally at this stage in the game. So we saw this suit get filed, and these explosive allegations came to light. I was on vacation the last weekend and the early part of this week, so I didn't see a lot of this initially. I was kind of sort of one eye on it, one eye on the rest of what I was doing. But it was clear that this was, and I think I said this on Twitter, is a big fucking deal. Clearly, right off the bat, when you see something like this is big, and that, you know, all of the stuff that happened afterward, which we'll talk about, wasn't yet in the light. So first we had this suit was filed, and I think Wowhead was the first place I saw it. Other outlets began to pick it up. Blizzard responded with a just truly shit statement, and their response to this was essentially bureaucrats gone wild. and that they denied all claims, as one typically does, I guess, in these types of instances. And it was a pretty shitty statement. It was definitely not something that was contrite or conciliatory in any way. This was not, yes, we're working with DFEH to, resolve anything. It was a terrible response. And their specific quote is that the DFEH includes distorted and in many cases false descriptions of Blizzard's past. We have been extremely cooperative with the DFEH throughout their investigation, including providing them with extensive data and ample documentation, but they refused to inform us what issues they perceived. The picture of DFEH. The picture the DFEH paints is not the Blizzard workplace of today. So immediately you can see the way that Blizzard is couching this is, well, maybe this happened. It was a long time ago. It was a long time ago. I know for myself and a lot of other people, the people we wanted to hear from were, well, where the hell is J. Allen Brack? That's our guy. What's up? What happened, dude? And eventually he did put out a statement where he, I think, tried to fall on the sword as much as he could, but it still was not sufficient. When you're at the top of a company like that, it's hard to believe that you don't know more than what you might be saying. There was an email that he sent, and Jason Schreier, who seems to be in the middle of all of this hubbub when it comes to the gaming industry, he received a copy of the email that J. Allen Brack sent out. And in particular, one of the issues that I think I had on first blush, and something I'm going to say about a lot of the things that have come to light since, is that there is context to certain statements and actions that I don't have and only the people involved will have. But on the outside, it doesn't look good, or it doesn't feel right, or it feels disingenuous. In this instance, J. Allen Brack bringing out Gloria Steinem, who, as he writes in his email, when I talked with Bobby Kotick, about taking this job, one of the first things I mentioned was a revered saint of the Brack household, Gloria Steinem. Now, I don't know J. Allen Brack, and I don't know his family. And maybe they have photos of Gloria Steinem in their house. Maybe they have quotes printed up and put on posters around the house. I don't know. But when you get into this kind of trouble and you bring out one of the all-time women's rights figures, I really hope that you have that kind of stuff in your house, because this comes off as wildly disingenuous. That you got in a fist fight somewhere in a parking lot, and you said, "Whoa, I couldn't have been me. Gandhi is a revered figure in my house." Or you get accused of being a racist. You're like, "Oh, I have black friends." This is the same kind of thing, and I hope for his sake that this is more legit than it feels like. But J. Allen Brack makes this statement and says what I think a lot of people expect him to say along with that, which is that none of this is acceptable. All of this is terrible, and we're going to work with our employees to make this right, and pretty much all the stuff you want to hear to an extent. Unfortunately, on the other side of that, we also had another statement that came out that I don't think was, I don't know that Jay Allen's was received all that well, but Fran Townsend, who is the she's the chief compliance officer of Activision Blizzard, and she put out a statement saying, Activision is a great company. Activision's great. The Activision that I've seen they're great, and we're putting all of this effort into fair compensation and fair treatment, and this lawsuit is talking about old stuff, and it's making something out of nothing. And all the time that I've been here, things have been great. Well, she's only been there for 4 months. So, I have email items pending that are older than that. So I don't know if that really holds a lot of water. And personally, I don't have a lot of respect for this particular individual, considering their prior history in trying to defend some truly heinous actions in the political world. So you'll have to forgive me if I don't quite hold that up as the best representation of what I'm hoping Blizzard is gonna be acting on in the future. But among these, also wondering, okay, well, where's Mike Morhaime? This investigation that preceded the lawsuit, well, 2 years old. And the items that they're talking about here, it's not like they just materialized overnight. This is a cultural issue. It's been around a long time. So where's Mike Morhaime? Where's Chris Metzen? Shit. Where's Ian Hazzikostas? Where are these guys? What do you got to say about this? So Morhaime put out a statement, finally. And in it, I think he said what a lot of people, again, were hoping to hear is, he was at Blizzard for nearly 30 years, and he tried hard to create a great environment, and clearly they failed in this, and all of this terrible stuff has happened, and we failed you, and we got to do better, and I want to listen, and I want to use my influence to help any way I can. So Morhaime puts out a statement that's pretty decent. Metzen finally put out a statement. Well, again, I think we've always believed that he and Afrasiabi were kind of like co-conspirators. And I mean that not in a negative connotation, but in the sense that, they were working side by side, that these two were bros. I mean, that's certainly what it looked like to me at BlizzCon. Again, appearances, who knows what's real. But he put out a statement basically like, I wasn't Alex's boss. I knew he could be an asshole, but I didn't know it was like this. And, again, it some stuff was right. Some stuff just did not feel quite right. But more importantly than any of this were the statements that followed by the avalanche of current and former employees of Activision Blizzard, women, who either work or worked for the company. And the stories that these women brought to light. In one case, I think I retweeted one of them who she said that I was one of the people involved in this suit. And the stuff with Afrasiabi, that's me. In other instances, people detailed times and places where they were discriminated against, where they were either held down, passed over, or delayed for promotions, where people treated them wildly different in similar circumstances to their male counterparts. Just story after story after story after story. Honestly, I don't follow a whole hell of a lot of people on Twitter, but even just trying to keep track of what I could, I lost count. I lost track. Just so many stories. And after everything that's happened, the bravery not only of the women who came forward to initiate this investigation and this lawsuit, but now here in the public sphere, the women who have brought these stories to light and again have faced either retaliation or harassment, their bravery cannot be understated. And I can't say how much I appreciate them risking what they've risked to tell us their truth, to help us move this conversation further along. Because as middle-class white dude, straight white dude, this is the blind spot that we're repeatedly told about and the things that we need to keep working on. So we saw one event after another, one story after another. In the Discord for our show, for Unshackled Fury, I thought we had a really good conversation with the people there. I want to thank everybody who chimed in and gave their piece. I especially want to thank Allie from Dungeon Fables, from Live, Laugh, Lore, and like a million other shows that she's done. And she's been so kind to share her thoughts with us in there. She also shared them on Twitter in a longer statement. And I really appreciate her being part of that discussion and helping share her perspective. So to Allie, if you hear this, thank you. Thank you very much for helping us in that dialogue. And I want to thank everybody else in there who joined in that conversation, because it's awkward. It's not easy. You know, we're all trying to figure these things out, and now we've had something very near and dear to us blow up in our faces, you know, once again. I've seen some people out there, and I may get a little heat for this, but I believe what I'm saying here is right. A lot of folks, you know, wanting to do the right thing, hearts in the right place, and say, my DMs are open, you know, talk to me. With all due respect, if there are people who are experiencing trauma, re-experiencing trauma, they need to be talking to licensed professionals who can give them help or assistance. We are not trained, the rest of us, to appropriately handle those types of scenarios. It's great to have an ear, and I say it a lot too, is listen, people can tell me anything, I'm happy to listen. But once it reaches especially a certain level of intensity, it needs to move over into a professional realm. So I hope folks out there keep that in mind. It's great to want to help and keep an ear open. But let's try to loop in the pros when we get a chance, because I think that's going to be the most helpful. Around Twitter, social media, I've seen a lot of different things. I mean, Christ, we got Aspen Gold putting out a 2-minute statement that everybody fell over themselves for, and yeah, I mean, I agree with what he said there too. But let's keep some perspective on that, huh? The fact that him and Taliesin agree on something, I guess even what do they say, a broken clock is right twice a day. So that's how fucked up you know that the situation is when those two are agreeing. You know it's a big deal, because that doesn't happen very often. But one of the conversations I keep seeing as well amongst all of this is not just what did J. Allen Brack do, what did Mike Morheim do, what did all these upper echelon folks do. It's also what was the role of HR. What did Activision Blizzard's, what did their HR do? Because that, I think, is a crucial nexus point in all of this, because I think most people would agree. There may be HR professionals listening to this podcast, and you may disagree with what I'm about to say, and I understand. But from my perspective and my experience, the role of HR is to protect the organization. It's not to protect the employee. That's not been my experience anyway. And so in this instance, it's story after story of people saying, I brought this to HR and it did not get resolved. The allegation that J. Allen Brack basically, slapped Afraziabi's hand like that, a little wrist slap. That was the only punishment that Afraziabi received. And story after story we're hearing about, I brought it to HR and HR didn't do anything. or they said, wasn't the right time, or they couldn't do enough, or whatever it was. Part of the problem for us here is that we don't have all the context. We don't know, those of us on the outside, what the organizational structure is. Even from the inside, there seems to be a lot of mystery about how exactly things unfold, how issues are addressed, because it doesn't sound uniform and it doesn't sound satisfactory. When I was hearing these stories, it really resonated with me because it sounds exactly like what my wife endured at a previous job, where for years she was subjected to harassment and discrimination. She brought it to her HR repeatedly. We got email records going back years. And repeatedly, she was pushed back on. Well, so-and-so can't take bad news today. Or, this just isn't enough. Or, well, we have to wait for the right time. Or, bullshit after bullshit after bullshit. And we talked many times about doing exactly what has happened in this situation, which is to file a complaint, get an investigation going, find something, because I believe in my bones that we had these people dead to rights. And I also knew, and she knew, and quite frankly, the rest of the coworkers that I've heard from since, that this was not just her story. This was other people's story. And you see that with this same exact thing with Blizzard. It's not just one person that this happened to. It's one after another, after another, after another. And it's maddening, and it's frustrating, and it makes you feel so many things. Not even sure I can put words to all of them. And it didn't even happen to me. I'm just the spouse. And I've seen the anger and the resentment. And eventually, she quit. Like a lot of people that we've seen with Blizzard, they've quit. Because there couldn't be a resolution. It wasn't possible. Because the people in charge who could have made a difference didn't. They sat on their hands and did nothing. And so we get where we are now. A 2-year investigation, credible claims of discrimination of all kinds, and a lawsuit that I'm sure we're going to be hearing about for a while. So where do we go from here? The sad reality is what we're seeing right now with Blizzard Entertainment is just a small slice of the world. This isn't just something that happens there. These aren't just events that happen in the gaming industry. This is how it is everywhere. There's a good chance it's in your organization and in every place you love. That there's some dirtbag, one or more, getting away with shit that they shouldn't be getting away with because either good people are doing nothing or people are giving up or people just simply aren't doing enough. In Warcraft, we've seen this story play out several times. It's funny because at Blizzard and in our content creator community, right, you believe that there's people that are rock stars. They're untouchable. Oh no. Nothing can happen to them. Pretty sure that's what happened with Afraziabi. He just was so high up and so well known and such a boss that nothing could happen to him. We've seen that with podcasters. Names that once were around that are no longer around. Even here, on this show, about a year ago, we talked about what happened in the Convert to Raid Guild. Harassment issues that had happened between some members, the fallout from that. I think we even talked about Elvin Lol getting arrested because he was trying to pick up on kids in Atlanta. Somebody who'd been around the community for years. You see stories. I knew he was a dirtbag. Finally got caught. Story after story after story. And part of the reason I feel like we're so angry about all of this, not just because what's in this suit, what's alleged, is just god-awful and fucking terrible. I should be mad about all that. It's also because now this crashes the reality of what is versus what we'd hoped for. That Blizzard was supposed to be better than this. All of the hoopla and bullshit out there and all the things that, you know, we believe in equality and we, you know, have, I think they had they even had a women's conference, you know, women in gaming. You know, we're better than this. We hold ourselves out to be higher and greater and above all of this. Hell, even on this show, we had Copperbolt, friend and artist, not that long ago, talking about her experiences, what we can do to be better about this. So what do? The first thing that we do is we believe women. When they tell you something is happening, believe them and help them do something about it. Listen to their stories. Listen. Just listen. Amplify those voices. Make sure other people are hearing what you hear. And we, collectively, all of us, have to root these fuckers out. We have to get them out of our community. Whether that's a company that we don't work at, like Blizzard, or within our own more local communities, we have to get these people out. When you see something, say something. It's awkward. Don't get me wrong. When you see something, you hear somebody saying something, you're like, whoa, we can't do that. That's not right. It can be awkward as hell. It might start a fight. That's true. But we, especially us dudes, and by all numbers, the predominant listener of this show is a young male. We have to take those actions. We have to step up. When it comes to Activision Blizzard, we have to demand change. Athelis, I heard you. When you look at the board of directors, Activision Blizzard, only 2 out of 10 members are women. One of them joined last year. The other one joined 3 years. The rest of them have been around a fuck ton longer than that. Change from the top. Anyone that gets caught up in this has to be fired. They have to be buried so far down in the ranks of employment that the only thing they're allowed to manage ever again is a hot dog cart, at best. A vending machine, perhaps. We have to root these people out. Throw them out. And install voices that aren't being heard. So what am I going to do? Me personally. Well, this is a real inflection point for this game and this community. There was a recent leak, quote-unquote leak, that came out not that long ago. And, you know, I don't put a lot of credence in these things, but you take that and combine it with the mood of people already around the game, Shadowlands, and it's not a good time. This is about as low as it's gotten so far. And I said it in Discord, and I'll say it here. I think it's still going to get worse before it gets better, because that's how these things typically go in my experience. But it's a pretty low point. And people are leaving. I know our friend Frasley was on this show a few times. She's completely bailed out. She hasn't streamed a Blizzard game in quite some time, but she's vowed she's out. Never coming back. My buddy Jin announced, or the Morally Grey podcast announced, it's ending. That show is over. Not because of this, but tangentially, Ro, our buddy Ro, he's out from all Blizzard podcasting. Realm Maintenance is being turned over completely to Athelis over at Warcraft Radio. And Rolling Restart is done. And people are asking themselves, with things as fucked up as they are, as terrible as the direction seems to be going, do I stay on this ship or do I leave? And let me just say this, as others have said, including the Asmongold piece. Whether people choose to stay or go is their decision. Their decision alone. And whichever direction people take, respect that decision. Some people may have the luxury to be able to move from one to another game or format. Smaller streamers, typically, if you got to hold on something, you got to keep running with it. So whichever direction people go, just let them go. Respect. But again, what do I do? Knowing what I know, seeing what I've seen, what do I do? To help explain my decision making, I have to tell you another story about my real job. And in my day-to-day life, the job that I have, I've been in the same group, so to speak, for more than a decade. The first half, worker bee, second half, management. And when I took the job for a promotion in the same group, I knew that one of the core functions that I was going to have to serve was to root out systemic issues that we were having in that office. Long-standing personnel issues that were as deeply dug and difficult to manage as there will ever be, I swear to God, on the face of this earth. But that was my charge, was to clean it up. It was not easy. For 5 years, I battled with these employees, with with HR, with my management. I gained about 40 pounds. My beard went white. Got back into therapy. I kept that fight going because I needed management above me who would help. And I needed to protect the good people in that office from anything happening to them. And after 5 years, multiple executive changes, let's say, we finally rooted these people out. And while it took a heavy toll on me personally, what I have seen on the other side of that, in my eyes, has been nothing short of a miracle. I now have the best team I could have ever asked for. I have people turning down jobs from other places to stay because of the culture we've created. We have people thriving. And the only reason that it's that way is because myself and a few others decided that we had to make and commit to make a cultural change. And that is what it takes. I see the other side. I see what can be. But I know the road that you have to walk to get there. But I'm willing to walk it. And so for me, I have to stay. I have to stay. I have to stay and help clean this up. I want to listen to the people whose voices need to be heard. I want to amplify those voices as much as I can. And I want to help root out every piece of trash who shouldn't be here. And you may say to yourself, well, Berzerker, you don't run Activision Blizzard. You don't really have a hand in that, man. And you're right. On that end, there's only so much we can do. But outside of that, on our end, on the community end, there's a lot we can do. We can be better teammates. Be better guildmates. We can be more respectful to each other. We can stick up for each other. Doesn't happen a whole lot, but you do hear about people from the community who get hired by Blizzard. Well, guess what? If there are pieces of trash out here, there'll be trash there too. But you can stop it. You can help stop it much earlier. If you say something, if you call shit out, say, hey, that's inappropriate. Hey, we can't do that. We have to step up. We have to do it. We have to help. We have to be better because we have failed. I have failed. There are too many times when I could have done more, I could have said more, I could have listened better, and I didn't. We all have to take that look in the mirror and decide what we're going to do. Some people, this is just woke. This is woke shit. All right, yeah, we're woke. We're woke because we want to make sure that people are being treated equally in the workplace and in society. Yeah, okay, all right. You can label me however the fuck you want for that, but we got to start making more changes. We got to do better. And that's where we are. So I will be sticking around. Might take a little bit of a break here. I'm not quite sure. But this lawsuit is shaking up a lot. And there's more to come out. And I encourage you, when you see stories being told, to amplify those voices. To help them in any way you can. It may feel like a small thing. I know I have but a tiny ripple in this giant content creator pond. But I appreciate anything that any of you can do to help. And I promise that I will do the same. So for now, I want to thank each of you who've listened to the show this week. And I hope that what I've said here today has helped further our discourse as much as possible in this terrible time. Believe women. Farewell.